Okay, quick update for Catfight. The big thing is we have a Discord now. I set that up, so check that in the description. There's a channel to post deck lists and talk about cards and talk about strategies. When new cards are revealed, I'm going to go through and kind of highlight some of the big ones there. Stuff like that, just to kind of like build some community, talk about rules, things like that. Like everything you need to kind of get started or to like introduce someone else is there. So check out the Discord. The other big thing in my personal life is that I've been bringing the format to people in person. So I've been going to a couple LGSs. There's a handful near me. And I've been going there and bringing my Catfight decks and seeing who wants to play. And there's one near me where I've been playing with the owner and the employees, and they have been loving it. And there's another fairly big game store that's not terribly far from me where I brought it on a draft night. And people who draft really love this format. And I think a lot of that is because it plays a lot like Limited. It's this weird kind of like blend of like Limited and Legacy. And I think people really kind of like latch onto that. So that's been the big thing, is that like I've been introducing more and more people to this format by simply just taking the decks, sitting down and being like, let's play. And something that I was saying that I'm seeing even more and more in person is the game plays a lot smoother than it reads. There's a lot of those rules about the cat, what you can and can't do and such, and it seems like a lot there, but it's really not. Once you're kind of in action, it all makes total sense. So if that's the thing that's kind of like holding you up, do not worry about that. Like, it plays super smooth, and the handful of instances where it's like, hey, can I bounce? The cat's like, no, you can't do that. I was like, okay, cool. Then I'll bounce this target instead, and it's totally fine. Like, most decks run very few cards that can do anything. They can interact with the cat in a way that the cat's not supposed to be interacted with. And then the handful of ones that do, it's pretty clear once you realize, like, why is this in there? It's to deal with, like, other permanents or, like, other things that are possibly going on. Or, you know, you want to bounce your own thing. So you have like something like Alchemist Retrieval in your deck. So it's like, I want to bounce my own thing, and this is the cheapest way to do it. So there might be weird things like that. But in general, people have just been absolutely loving this format. So one of the issues that I've run into is that I don't have enough decks to play with people. I'm going to stores and I'm sitting there and playing with people, and I have 4 decks, and we can usually get like 1 or 2 games going. But then a bunch of people are kind of standing around wanting to play in addition. So I need to build a few more decks here. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to build a couple new Catfight decks that I'm going to build and then I'm going to buy. And then when I go to future LGSs or go to the same LGSs again, I'll bring these. If I can have like 6 or 7 or 8 decks, I can sit down and I can show people a couple different ways that you can play the format, a couple different decks and strategies that you can do. I might even have to build a mill deck after this one. And then get people thinking about it, because that's the big thing that I notice is the instant I play a couple games with someone, they start brewing in their head. It's such a good Brewers format. This is such a good Brewers format because it's not solved. Like, there is not the best deck, because any deck that tries to do one thing, there's going to be a counter for it, and then there's going to be something in the middle that will also be able to like prevail. So if you're like ultra aggro, there's going to be like a white-green deck that's going to be able to slow you down immensely because they can prevent all the combat damage and kind of do things to gain life to counteract that. But if you're like a super slow control deck, you're going to have trouble dealing with something super aggro. And there's lots of like mid-range strategies, but then the possibilities open up in every direction. So it's like, are you trying to ramp up to play something big, like a big X-Spell? Are you trying to go wide to get a bunch of creatures where it's like it's going to be difficult for them to try to make good blocks? Is it just making your cat evasive, like trying to find a way where your cat is just difficult to deal with, where you're getting kind of like ward and protection and stuff like that? They're like, there's a bunch of different options. So that's what makes this super cool, and that's what gets people's minds racing. And with every new set, we just get more and more cards, and Tarkir's coming out in like a couple weeks, I think. We're going to see spoilers soon. So once that comes out, we're going to have a bunch of new cards, and then we just have like 5 other sets that are coming out this year, on top of all the Final Fantasy, on top of all the Spider-Man, on top of all the everything else. So I wouldn't be surprised if at the end of this year, we have like 100 to 200 new cards that are introduced into this format. And I would guarantee at least like 10% of those cards are going to be fantastic, and probably 20 to 50% are probably going to be playable. So let's see what comes out. But here we go. As I said, I want to build a couple new decks, and I want to kind of go through my process of building new decks because I want to try some new strategies. So I'm going to jump in here and I'm going to build a couple decks. So here we go. Bam. I got to start it off here with the basics here. This should be your basic package if you're building any deck, any color, any 2-color deck. This should be what you have. Like, obviously these lands are going to change to be the proper colors, which obviously you have the cat, you have the mental misstep. Every deck should run Thoran Quarry. There's no reason not to run Thoran Quarry. These two are the 2 staples of the format, to be totally honest. In playing more and more games, I'm kind of veering more away from single color because there's no reason not to run multicolor, simply because you have things like Thoran Quarry and Gemstone Mines, and you have the Duskmourn lands. So fixing your mana is not incredibly difficult to get into 2 colors and even 3 colors. And the Thran Quarry, if you're not in blue, being able to let you play the Mental Misstep and not paying the 2 life is unbelievably fantastic. So every deck's got to run Thran Quarry. Unless you're really doing something bizarre. I haven't seen something that's like super bizarre where you want to run a ton of basics, but if you can crack that, if you could do something with like land tax and all you want to do is run basics, I mean, there could be something there, but I think every deck is going to want to run Thran Quarry just to be able to like fix your mana. Because in case you're not picking up on it, it never goes away because the 9 lives familiar comes back, and as long as the 9 lives familiar is on the battlefield, the Thran Quarry will never go away because the intervening if clause at the end of the turn will make sure that it sticks around. So this land is basically, it's a free gold land that taps from everything. This is the command tower of this format is pretty much what this is. We need to get our staples in here for blue and red. So we need a couple things. We need our 2 best blue spells, which is of course Pongify and of course Rapid Hybridization. Pongify, Rapid Hybridization. These are fantastic because you hit your own cat and then you get a 3/3. I'm gonna say that this is the similar staple in red, turn inside out. This card is super fantastic because this in a weird way is kind of the lightning bolt, because this is either going to be 3 damage or you're going to get yourself a 2/2. So this works incredibly well in the same capacity. I'm running this in every single red deck here. Other blue staples that we're going to need. And here's where we're going to start abusing some things. Storm Chaser's Talent. This might be the best blue card in the format. I'm not, other than obviously like Mental Misstep, but in terms of it being an actual blue deck, this might be the best card in the format. Being able to make that 1/1 and then giving it prowess, it's so good. It's really so good. Red cards that I'm running in every single deck. Get ready for these if you haven't played this format yet. These might seem a little weird, but Curse of Opulence. Because this, since you have a cat, you turn 1 Curse of Opulence your opponent and you attack, this is free. This is a free spell that's kind of ramp and it's going to fix your mana. This is so incredibly good. And then along the same lines, we're going to run Sticky Fingers. As someone who has played hundreds of games of this format, this might be the best turn 1 play, simply because it fixes your mana. It gives you ramp. If something happens to your cat, it's card draw. This is such an unbelievably strong like turn 1 play. It gives it the menace so it can't be blocked. I absolutely love this. This is super fantastic. Okay, if you're playing green, you're going to play a lot of instants because you want to play a bunch of pump spells. Even just simple things like Giant Growth are good. I want to, since we're doing red, I want to do all the equipment that come into play and like auto attach. So the ones I'm thinking of, I consider this obvious an auto include in any red deck. Inventor's Axe. This is the one there. It comes into play, it auto equips, and you get 2 energy. And then for 2 energy, you can re-equip it. So as long as you have something that goes unblocked, or you have like something that can't be blocked, you can attach this and you're basically going to be able to deal 2 damage. This is kind of like the shock of the format. This is how you do direct damage. You have something that can be unblockable, or you're able to just like go wide enough that you're guaranteed that this will hit. And then if something happens, you can re-equip it. Super fantastic. Along the same lines, we have Miram Bane Splitter. Same idea, other than this one has an equip cost of 3, and we're going to try to get around some of that stuff. And then the other one is Dueling Rapier. So this is the same idea. It comes into play, it auto equips, and these all have flash. Note that these all have flash. That's what's making these super fantastic, because you can run things. There's another one that you could even just run Bone Splitter, where it costs 1 colorless and attaches for 1. That seems pretty good, but I want to be able to do it at flash speed. So we kind of want to do tricks. We want to have a lot of things that are going to be instants. So that's kind of where we're leaning into this. If you're playing blue, you obviously are going to be able to play some counter spells. In this particular deck, I only want to run hard counters. Things that can counter anything. I don't want to run things that are going to be able to, that can only hit like instants and sorceries. I don't want to play Dispel. Instead, I want to play things like, here's the, since we're in blue, we get access to this, which is absolutely fantastic, which is Minor Misstep, which is obviously the same as Mental Misstep, except you have to pay the 1 mana, but this is super fantastic. Minor Misstep is absolutely fantastic. So Minor Misstep. And then I think what we actually want to play is we're going to play Offer You Can't Refuse. Because this is a hard counter. This can counter anything. You're giving your opponent 2 treasure. But if you're able to hit something that's going to be game winning, this is like, these are kind of like your emergency switches. Is an Offer You Can't Refuse. Seems pretty good. I'm going to run Divert. This is the one thing that I'm going to do that's different. This card is just super fantastic if you haven't seen this one. You change the target spell with a single target unless they pay 2. This is the deflecting SWAT of the format. But this is basically the deflecting SWAT of the format because you can steal something and no one ever has that 2 mana. So it's super fantastic. I love it. But obviously this can't prevent like a fog. So it's not that amazing, but it's pretty good. Here's where I want to start to take this deck in a slightly different direction. I want to run Luxior. So if you're unfamiliar with this one, this is the one that was supposed to be used to enchant planeswalkers. But if you read this, what it actually does is it gives +1/+1 for all counters on a permanent. 9 Lives Familiars, those are revival counters. Those are counters. So this is going to make that 9 Lives Familiar really big if you're able to attach it to it. Equip 3 is not the hardest thing to do in the world. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it's going to be able to make your cat substantially bigger. Now, here's how we're going to start to get around this stuff. Because if you're noticing, we're getting a lot of equipment. If I could spell. Because equipment are actually a really big part of this format because it's able to stick around. So if you can land a dueling rapier or you're like obviously like an inventor's axe, this can wind up being 4 damage over 2 turns instead of 2 damage or 3 damage like a giant growth. And that's way better. So we're gonna wind up running Magnetic Theft because we can use it to attach a Luxior or we can use it to like slide an equipment around. But more importantly, we can also use it to steal an equipment from an opponent. So if they play something like Shadow Spear, we can Magnetic Theft their Shadow Spear and attach it to our cat. And I really like that concept right here. So we're gonna run Magnetic Theft. We're also gonna run Shadow Spear. Running Shadow Spear, that seems like a good play. Since we're running all of these equipments, we're going to have to run Ursa Saga. So let's get an Ursa Saga in there. The cost of the deck just shot up dramatically, of course. But we have enough things that I think it's going to be worth getting because we can get Luxior, we can get Shadow Spear. Like, those 2 alone are worth it where we can get those. We're still only at 8 lands. If we're running all of these artifacts, I kind of want to run Spire of Industry. It's not super good at turn 1, but later game, it can obviously be really good. I'm hesitant to run City of Brass. Like, we're very, like, in multiple colors, but, like, here we are. We might wind up with a few extra lands in this deck because I want to show you something. I came across a card here. It's blue. It's mana value is 1. I can't remember the name of it, but we'll find it in 2 seconds here. Wind Zendikon. Enchant land. Enchanted land is a 2/2 blue elemental creature with flying. It's still a land. When enchanted land is put into a graveyard, return that card to its owner's hand. So, this is going to be able to get us a 2/2. So in a weird way, this gets us a, it's another permanent on the board. But what we can do from here is we can run lands that are going to give us interesting abilities. And there are a fewer of them. One of them being Teetering Peaks. Teetering Peaks, this is the one that when it comes into play, a creature gets +2/+0. So this is a pump spell. It's a pump spell that can't be countered. There's a blue one that gives it flying. Enters flying. What is that one called? Shout it out right now if you know it. It is Soaring Seacliff. Here it is. So target creature gets flying. So that's going to be the next avenue we're going to start going. Is we're going to start doing interesting things to get our cat through. Is we're gonna make our cat unblockable here. So Soaring Seacliff, that seems really good. There's one that makes it where a creature can't block. Can't block. What is it? Nope. Oh, it's not blue, it's red. What is it called? Smoldering Spires, that's the one. Smoldering Spires, okay. Smoldering Spires. Awesome. Okay, now we're up to 13 land. This is a pretty good amount of land. Honestly, we might want to run a couple. Hall of Oracles is always a land that I try to run in these decks. I might add it in. You don't get like a weird like extra. Some cards like in Gruul, you get an extra dual colored land because you have Grove of the Burden Willows. Red blue, you don't get like a weird extra one. So we're kind of short like one like mana fixing land. What we could actually run is the artifact land, the one that's tapped. That's not a terrible idea. That might be something we actually want to consider. Other things we want to do, we want to make our creature unblockable. So we would need things that are going to make it where our creature can't be blocked or has like flying. What is unblockable? we don't want it to be a creature. Non-creature. Mana value equals 1. I think we just want to say block, honestly, because it might be can't be blocked is what might come up. There's a couple of them. What I want is actually things that also let you... Let's go with just block here, because I actually want to be able to draw a card. Enchanted creature can't be blocked. This seems really good. Aqueous Form seems like a real winner. Beyond this, I want to run things that are going to make it where we can draw cards, get some card advantage off of this. So let's take a look at these. Let's get Aqueous Form in here. But there's one in particular that I'm thinking of. Distortion Strike seems really good here. Enter the Enigma. Target creature can't be blocked and draw a card. I really like that one. Let's go Enter the Enigma, because then it's going to be able to make it so we can draw a card and cantrip, and that seems really good. Enter the Enigma. Distortion Strike's a maybe. The can't be blocked seems really good. Can't be blocked this turn. That's not as good because we can do better things than that. Rite of Passage. Lost of Jite is pretty good. That's where it can't be blocked and you can put counters on it. Lost Jite might go in there. Let's get Lost Jite in there. We need some defense also. We're going to have to make a transition here and start running some defense, because right now we're just all offense, but that's okay. The card that I was thinking of is it gives you Shadow and can't be blocked. No, obviously Shadow makes it so it can't block. No, it's Shadow. It's Shadow. It's Shadow and draws you a card. That's the card I'm thinking of. What is it? Shadow Rift. Here we go. Target creature gains Shadow. That's the card I was thinking of. Shadow Rift. Love it. We can get 6 more cards in here. We're thinking about getting another land in here. All right, let's play some defense here. We need some defense because we have some counter spells, and we need some things that can deal with the creature that's coming our way. So let's kind of do that. One of the things to do is we can make it get smaller. So we want to do blue instant minus, so target creature. There's one I'm specifically thinking of, which is going to be fantastic, and that's going to be Deceive the Messenger. That's definitely the one we want to run. So Deceive the Messenger. This is great because it also gets you a token. So this kind of does double duty. Deceive the Messenger. Love it. Okay, the card I'm thinking of, I couldn't find it there for a second there because it's not a, whatchamacallit? It's not an enchantment. It is or not an instant, it is an enchantment, and that is Spontaneous Mutation. Flash enchanted creature gets minus X minus O, where X is the number of cards in your graveyard. Boy, that seems good. Boy, that seems really good there. Okay, so Spontaneous Mutation, we're gonna run that one. Couple cards we missed here where we're thinking about aggression. We want Relic's Roar. We want Relic's Roar and Behind the Mask. These are the ones that let a creature turn into get bigger, like you change what they are. Relic's Roar becomes a 4/3, and then Behind the Mask seems really good. This is the other one that it is going to make as initial. You may collect evidence. Yeah. But you can make something become a 4/3 is what it is. So that seems really good. One other card I want to show you guys real fast, and that is Sapphire Charm. This is an oldie but a goodie. Part of me wants to run Chain of Vapor. I definitely want to run Chain of Vapor because then I can be bouncing stuff. Chain of Vapor. Cool, Chain of Vapor seems really good. If we remove Lost Jite, let's say we remove this. Let's move this to considering here. That puts us at 40. What can we get with our Urza Saga? All we could get is Shadow Spear and Luxior. Both of those are super phenomenal. I don't know if we actually want to keep it. We may not want to keep Urza Saga in here. It seems good because obviously getting either of those seems absolutely fantastic. But I don't know if that's fitting our game plan as well as we kind of want it to. Okay, we might keep Urza Saga here because I want to run this card actually. Team Pennant. This feels like a real sleeper in the format here. Equip creature gets +1/+1 and has Vigilance and Trample. You can equip a token for 1, which we're making lots of tokens in a few different ways. And then you can equip for 3. Once again, we can get around the equip 3 with Magnetic Theft. So I kind of really like that one. There's a small part of me that wants to run Blacksmith's Talent. The problem is with Blacksmith's Talent is this first one is pretty crappy. For the 1 red, you get the equipment, which you kind of can't do anything with. But once you get up to 3, the fact that you can attach an equipment for free, so if you can be attaching the Luxior or the Shadow Spear or you know what I mean? This seems really good once you could get this up there. Are we running enough equipment to justify this? I mean, that would make the Urza Saga substantially better if we did that. What would we consider getting? Because then we have like the behind the masks and the the relics roar are really good. We wound up going a little bit away from the artifacts and equipment that I thought we were going to originally. But I still think this is super good. I think this is a fun and interesting deck. It does some interesting and unique things. We're playing some interesting and unique cards here. So I'm going with it. I'm gonna get this deck built and purchased, and I'll add this one to my box to bring to my LGS and play. All right, so I stepped away and I came back and I made a couple changes to this list. So here's kind of a couple things that we did. One thing is I added a sideboard here. I moved Offer You Can Refuse into the sideboard. And I wound up going with, instead, Phantom Interference, because this is a counterspell, but it also can give you a creature. I kind of really like this one. Like, obviously, Offer You Can Refuse is good because it just costs 1, but I really like this one. I like the duality of this one, and that always seems really good. I also found a spot, I'd completely forgotten about Monstrous Rage, so we got Monstrous Rage in here also. That's just a super fantastic. Like, it doesn't make your creature unblockable, but it might as well make it unblockable. It's kind of a good way to think about it. So I took out the Enter the Enigma for this. So then we're really just going off of instants and things with flash. There's that enchantment that give a creature -X/-0, where X is equal to the number of cards in the graveyard. I really like that one, but I actually wound up changing it for Taken to Custody. I like this one better. This is good on... The only reason the other one was better is it would be good against green decks because you could use it to like stop things from getting pumped up. Taken to Custody that you can use to like remove a blocker or stop someone from attacking. It just won't like stop their pump spells as good as the other one would have done, but I kind of like this. And I think that's kind of it. I think that's kind of where we wound up. We have Gleeful Demolition here to destroy many of our artifacts and then turn them into creatures to block or to be able to pump or to be able to like put Team Pennant on, which all seems super fantastic. And yeah, I think that's kind of it. So then we have a Hydro Blast and a Power Blast on the sideboard to try to deal with like a more of a monocolor deck. Into the Flood March seems great because if anyone's trying to do anything with like permanents, they'd be able to like balance something. And that fish is not that scary. Spell Parasive is obviously something that's way more... trying to play bigger spells is probably where I'd put this in. Something that's going to be tapping out more. I think this would be good. Or something that's just like more bigger impact. Like if you were playing a green deck with a lot of pump spells, I would probably run this in there. As I said, Spontaneous Mutation got moved in. Steel Sabotage. If someone's playing a super heavy artifact strategy, this seems really good. You can also use it to bounce your own artifact if need be. And then you can like replay it. So if like Mirren Bane Splitter is on a card and it gets blocked, you can use Steel Sabotage to bounce it and then play it against something else. That might be worth it. Every red deck I'm running Fear Fire Foes in the sideboard because there's like fogs are so good, and this stops their ability to fog. So I really like this one in the sideboard. If you're playing against something, this is like super damage prevention, like a white green deck that was like really trying to like slow the game down by preventing all combat damage. So I really like this one. Okay, so the other deck I want to build is what I'm going to call... I don't want to say this is the best deck in the format, but if there was like a Catfight Pro Tour, this is the deck that I would bring. I've had this deck in my mind for a while because people have asked me like what I think the best deck is, and I think this is what it would be. It's of course some kind of like mid-rangey control deck because that's always, kind of where metas wind up shaking out to be. Obviously aggro can overrun something like this and control could kind of beat it, but this is always kind of like when things coalesce, they kind of coalesce to a place that is this. So I think it's going to be Abzan. And the reason I think it's going to be Abzan is because what you get in Abzan is you get all the fogs. Because in white, you wind up getting 2 fogs because you have Ethereal Haze and you have Holy Day. And then you also obviously have Fog. And then you also have the Black Fog, which is Darkness. We're going to switch that art there for a second here. Let's go with this one. So we're going to go with Darkness. I set this up where we already have our 9 Lives Familiar and our Mental Misstep, and then I gave us our land base. Nothing super off the rails here in terms of the land base because we need the mana pips, so everything basically is tapping for multiple colors. We're even running like City of Brass. Like there's a small part of me that thinks we should probably run like Mana Confluence, to be totally honest. I'm running Hall of Oracles currently, but I could easily be convinced to run Mana Confluence instead just because this deck is so greedy on its mana that you're going to kind of need it. And we have ways to gain life. We're going to have ways to kind of like backtrack that. So losing a life here or there is not the end of the world. So I kind of like that. The only argument to not run Mana Confluence and City of Brass is this deck wants to go into more of a long game. So you may not want to do that. But here's the big reason. This is the big reason why I think this deck would be good is you get all of the fogs. And then since you're also in green, you could do things like you can reclaim. So you can put the fog back on top of your library. And then you can also do Noxious Revival to put it back on your library. And then once you start running the other things that are going to be able to like deal with permanence and deal with stuff and be able to like recur it, it's just going to be really good. Now, the reason we're in black is I want to play what in my mind is the best finisher in the format, and that's Doomsday Confluence. All you got to do is play this for 5, and I think you're pretty much going to win the game. It's not an auto win, obviously, but once you get those 2/3/3 Daleks, you're in such good shape that it's really hard because there's no board wipes. Ironically, someone could side in like Meltdown and that would deal with it, but I don't see a lot of people playing Meltdown currently. But if this becomes like the thing to do, then Meltdown would do it. So there's something super interesting here, but I think this is the best finisher in terms of like on rate to like finish. This seems to be it. You also have Valgavoth's Onslaught, but I like Doomsday Confluence better personally, and we're already in black a little bit, so we're gonna do this. The other things we want to do now is we want to be able to like hold our opponent's cat down. So we want to do the classics, which is Oppressive Raise. There's also, I had forgotten this existed until someone pointed this one out to me, Paralyze, which is kind of the exact same card, but in black. So Oppressive Raise, you have Paralyze. So just more ways to kind of like keep that cat at bay. So we have things to save us in the first couple of turns. We have ways to kind of like start to turn the corner. Since we're in white, we got to run Sentinel's Eyes. Sentinel's Eyes is just super fantastic. If you play the format at all, you would acknowledge that. Light Wheel Enhancement, it's not as good as Sentinel's Eyes, but it's still really good. It's the Vigilance. The Vigilance is really what kind of like makes it. So Light Wheel Enhancement, Sentinel's Eyes. This sure feels like a Shadow Spear deck. So Shadow Spear. We're in green, so we got to run Crop Rotation. Crop Rotation, that seems really good here because we can kind of like get our mana that's going to fix things. Going and getting Urborg also seems super great. See, like Crop Rotation and get an Urborg, and then all your lands get tap for every color. That seems really strong. So even like your like Razor Birch Thicket and your like Edge Cornfield now suddenly become like 3-color lands. I really kind of like the one Urborg in here. I don't love this card in this format just because I don't like the gameplay, but it's legal. This might move to a watch list, especially if this becomes the deck to play. This might move to a watch list. Maze of Ith. You Crop Rotation for Maze of Ith, but it's a land drop that doesn't tap for land, but obviously Urborg makes it tap for land, so all the more reason to play like in no basics and run Urborg, etc. So Maze of Ith, I'm counting that as a spell, so we're going to run Maze of Ith in here. Okay, we're up to 28 cards. We're kind of making good progress. A couple other artifacts we want. I think we want La Jetée. I think La Jetée is kind of becoming like a staple, especially if you're doing anything that's trying to slow the game down. The ability to build up your cat, the ability to like stop things from blocking, the ability to untap land so you can like do things like hit someone with a fog. It seems really good. So let's go with La Jetée. We have Shadow Spear. I really like Sai the Shinobi. It's not as strong as some of the other cards that were added to this deck, but the fact that this can auto-equip and it can make our cat bigger seems really good. And on that note, let's run Periphery Nodes. I always have trouble spelling this one. Periphery Nodes. So this is just another way to kind of like keep our opponent's cat from like, as long as our cat's bigger, we can destroy it. And to help make our cat stay bigger, since we're in green, we're going to run Rancor. So now our cat can kind of stay the biggest thing. So between Rancor, La Jetée, Sai the Shinobi, we should have enough ways to keep our cat to be the biggest creature on the battlefield. And Periphery Node is also a weird way to get us out if we get stuck under like a paralyze on our cat. So we can destroy our own cat to do stuff like that. Speaking of destroying our own cat, let's run Unwanted Remake. This is the one where you destroy a creature and then its controller manifests dread. You can destroy your own cat if need be, but you can also use this in like as emergency pulse switch if someone's attacking with something enormous. You can kind of do this. Speaking of if someone's attacking with something enormous, we're in white, so let's run Ostrike. This is another kind of like, in a weird way, this is almost like better than Fog because you prevent all the damage from one source and then you gain life equal to the damage prevented. So if someone's playing with like a scale up on their cat, you can just hit them with this and then you're in pretty good shape. Speaking of gaining life, let's play Life Goes On. This card, this one wasn't on my radar originally until I started playing a lot more games and seeing how aggressive the format is. Boy, this card is good. The ability to gain 8 life. In a lot of situations, this could be better than a Fog, because obviously you can use a Fog to stop like a 5/4 cat attacking, but you could Life Goes On and just gain 8 life. You like make a block, so you prevent the damage, and then at the end of the turn, you just Life Goes On and gain 8 life. So good. Absolutely so good. Okay, we're at 35 cards here. What else do we want? What else do we need? One more thing. let's keep trying to bide our time a little bit. Authority to the Consoles. I really like this in any type of like slower deck, because obviously whenever that cat comes into play, it's going to come to play tapped, which is amazing, especially with like periphery nodes. This is kind of like how you like make a pathway to like close out the game in a weird way, and then you're just gaining life. Like this seems really good in this combination of cards that we're running here. Along with those, let's run. I think it's called Radiant Grace. Is that what it is? Yeah, this is a weird one where it flips. So on this side, it's just +1/+0 and Vigilance, which, as we said, Vigilance is amazing. But then when it flips, it kind of becomes like a weird Authority of the Consoles, where creatures the enchanted player controls enter the battlefield tab. So that's really good. Really liking that one. This is going to become a staple of the format. Isolate, exile target permanent of mana value 1. So this is your like out. This is your like, I need to be able to like do something to handle the enchantment, the artifact, the whatever someone's playing. This is kind of like the catch-all that hits everything. Ironically, it can't hit any of the zeros, but it can hit any permanent. So I really like that one. Speaking of hitting the zeros, like all the tokens, let's run Galadriel's Dismissal. Galadriel's Dismissal. I really like this one in here. This is fantastic because you can use it to save your cat, you can use it to exile a token, you can use it as a weird, like, prevent a single combat. I love this card. I think this card is super fantastic in this format. One of my favorite cards in the format. Me from the future here, smarter me from the future here. I have been talking about Galadriel's Dismissal in this format because you can use it to phase things out, and I have many times said this in these videos and also said this to people in person, that you can phase out a token and that would make it not exist anymore. I don't know where I got that idea. I was almost positive that that was correct and that I had checked the rules and that was correct, but someone pointed out to me that I was wrong, and I checked the rules and they are correct. That if you phase out a token, the token still exists and it will still phase in. So this card is not very good. So I'm going to wind up switching this out in the future. I'll show you the final deck list at the end. When we make it to the end, I kind of add the sideboard and change that card out after I do some research and figure out that is the way that card actually plays out. But yeah, I'm incorrect here. So remove that card from here. And I think at one point I added Sapphire Charm to the blue-red deck at the beginning with the same idea. No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. There are better things to do. All right, back to building. Here's one that I'm going to add that I think a lot of people are not super on yet, but in this particular deck, because we're trying to like slow down time a little bit, we're going to play... Is it Squirrel Sanctuary, or is it Sanctuary of Squirrels? I thought it was Squirrel Sanctuary. There we go. Squirrel Sanctuary. Okay, so for 1 green, you get a 1/1 green squirrel, and then whenever a non-token creature, your cat, dies, you can pay 1, and if you do, you return this to his hand. So for 2 mana, you can constantly just like keep producing squirrel tokens. That seems really good, like really good. So I really kind of like this one. I think this one is super fantastic. Okay, that puts us at 40 cards. We're in white green. We're like mostly in white green. We're really just like splashing for black here. It's either Black Scarab or Flickering Ward. Which do we like better? It might be Flickering Ward. Our goal is to gain time. Let's do Flickering Ward because we can return it. So this is another way in case our cat gets like trapped under anything. This can use our cat to be a blocker. This can make it so our cat can get through. I kind of like this better than Black Scarab. Like our goal is to kind of go a little bit longer. So this seems really good. There's a small argument that you might want to remove Squirrel Sanctuary and go with Okiba Reckoner Raid or Reaper's Talisman. Both of those are really good. I do like the ability to just like pump out blockers, and those other ones are black. This one's green, so turn 1 you could just like Squirrel Sanctuary, and then you have it. I kind of like it. I think it's kind of cute. So here we go. Like as I said, is this the best deck in the format? I don't know, but this is where my mind is gone. It's like someone who has played hundreds of games of this format at this point. If someone were like, we're having a tournament, we're having a catfight tournament this Friday, like build the best deck you can and bring it. I think this is what I would build. I'd have to like play test this and like make a couple changes and such, but I think this is what I would wind up building and wind up playing, because it feels like it can do everything. It can slow down the game on the first couple turns. It can start to like transition where you can make it so your cat is kind of really hard to handle, and then it can just close out the game with like a big X spell, or you just like overrun them with like just a bunch of squirrels, like, you know what I mean? Like you just get them in a position where you're just hitting them for like 2 or 3 every single turn, like Lost Tuesday. Like you're using that to just get your cat bigger and bigger and bigger, and then Shadow Spirit to make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're just kind of able to just like close the gap. So no matter what they're trying to do, you can kind of stop it. And then the ability to like recur things with Noxious Revival and Reclaim seems really good. All right, so I stepped away and I came back and I finished the deck here. In that cutaway a little bit earlier, you saw me mention that Galadriel's Dismissal does not work. The card I wound up swapping it out for was Pin Collection. This is the one from Unfinity. This is legal because this is the ban list kind of follows closer to the ban list of Commander, where stickers are still technically legal. So this card is legal. This card is amazing, and this is kind of another good thing to do once the game gets longer. So you play this for whatever, for X equals 2, X equals 3, X equals 4, whatever it is, and you get a sticker to attach to this, and note that it attaches to this. You can just keep attaching it to different creatures, which makes it amazing. And there's all kinds of crazy stickers. I'll go over the sticker rules probably in the next update video, just so we all are on the same page about that. But basically, you get the tickets, and then you start with, I think it's 10 sticker cards in your deck, and then at the beginning of the game you pick 3 of those at random, and there's the ones you have. But there's a whole bunch that are amazing. They're like, when this creature attacks, like, target opponent loses 2 life, and when this creature dies, draw a card, and all kinds of bonker stuff. Like, it gets like, there's also, you can add the, like, you can change the power toughness, so you can make it like a 6/5 or like a 7/1 or whatever. So and obviously adding Trample and Surveil and Scry and all kinds of goofy stuff like that. So this card seems absolutely amazing. And this is kind of our good thing to do here in the end. I don't think I changed anything else outside of that since we last saw this list, other than we made a sideboard here. So let's talk sideboard. So in case you hadn't noticed, we are now 9-card sideboard. I can't remember if I've mentioned that in this video, but I'm mentioning it again here. So rules have been changed. We're now running a 9-card sideboard. So first card is Gideon's Sacrifice. This is just, in a weird way, another fog, because you can take all damage that's being dealt to you and you just direct it to the cat, and then obviously the cat is going to be destroyed and come back, but that seems totally fine. Mind Twist, where you're doing big stuff, we're getting big mana. So if there's a deck that is somehow drawing a bunch of cards and wants to like spell sling, then Mind Twist seems absolutely great. It's also just great in the early game. Like, this could kind of, on like turn 3 or 4, this seems super good, where you just hit your opponent, just get rid of their entire hand. Pest Infestation. This seems really good in the sideboard. If you're up against something that's running a ton of artifacts or enchantments, this seems fantastic. You hit someone's Urza Saga with this, and you get yourself 2 pests. Boy, does that seem good. Similarly, Pick Your Poison. I like this as just kind of a general catch-all. It's going to be able to get rid of an artifact, an enchantment. It's great against Urza Saga. And then also a creature with flying. So if your opponent makes their cat fly, you can use this to make them sacrifice it. This is probably the weakest card of the sideboard, to be totally honest. Prismatic Ending. At one point I had this in for Pin Collection, but then I switched that out. This is just Vindicate in this format, because all you got to do is pay 1 white and it destroys anything. The only reason this is in the sideboard is because whatchamacallit is in the main deck as an instant. Like, this is just the better version. Isolate is just better. So, but if you're running against something, once again, that's running, I don't know, a bunch of permanents, a bunch of like scary artifacts or enchantments, then you can run Prismatic Ending. Like, let's say you're up against something that's running all the like hidden enchantments. This would be super good against us. Royal Treatment. This in my mind is the best like Snakeskin Veil, ironically. I think this one's better because it gives you the token that lets a creature continue to have ward. So I'm going with this. So if you're playing against something with a ton of removal, you side this one. Sphere of Annihilation. Check this one out. This is a really good sideboard card. If you're playing against a deck that's running a bunch of token creation, like it's running things like it's making a bunch of zombies, or it's making, what's the white one that makes a bunch of soldiers? You know what I'm talking about. It's an X-Spell that makes a bunch of soldiers. You side this in, and this is just going to be like the board wipe to get rid of all the tokens in the format. Here's a good include. Strip Bear. There's a lot of equipments running around and a lot of enchantments. It's really good and they work super great. So here for 1 white mana, you can get rid of all of those because they're most likely all going to be attached to the cat. So if you can get 2 things for this seems way better than just like a generic destroy target artifact or enchantment, because you kind of have that and Pick Your Poison. And then Wasteland. If you're up against something that's doing something crazy with a bunch of lands, you have 1 extra like land destruction spell. Like, let's say you're up against something that's playing like Maze of Ith and like a bunch of other things where like, or a bunch of man lands, you can swap wasteland in for, I don't know, whatever makes sense in that instance. So that's our 9-card sideboard. So that's where we're at. So yeah, I think this deck is super strong. At the beginning, I was a lot more confident saying that I think that this was probably like the best deck in the format. And then I kind of had a weird epiphany. And then we're going to build another deck in the near future that is going to kind of in a weird way be almost a counter to this and a counter to a lot of the decks that I built. And I'm curious to see if that deck is enough to like kind of throw wrenches in these decks that are trying to do almost too much. A deck with a more like straightforward game plan that is going to try to like deny resources. We'll talk about that one in a little bit. But no, this is it. I still stand by this is going to be a very good deck. Best deck, I'm not totally sure, but you know, let's get a build and let's check it out and play it against the other decks and let's play it against your build. That's what I really want to do. I want to play this against what everyone else is building. I want to see what is the best deck and what is super fantastic in this format. So let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of my decks. Join the Discord. Send me your deck list there. Show me all the cards that you're finding that you think are super exciting. And as I said, Tarkir's coming out soon, and we'll go over all the cards that are legal for this format, and what's good and what's not good. So as always, let me know if you're building, let me know if you're playing, and let me know anything that you're thinking and how you're enjoying the format. All right, guys, have a good night. Bye.